Hi everyone, welcome to another Reasons and Resources episode. So in this episode we're going to be looking at reasons and resources for learning ALGOL. So let's start off with some of my reasons as to why I became interested in ALGOL, and we'll try and talk generally, although I think with this particular language the reasons why I'm interested are probably the same as a lot of reasons why other people be interested. So for me with ALGOL, you have this interesting intersection of historical syntax, because it's a language where you maybe not come across it nowadays, it's an older language, but its influence on programming language design has been incredibly profound. And you know, if you take a look at languages like, say, Pascal and C and other languages which have that certain style to them, the way they're laid out, many of them owe those concepts, those language concepts, to ALGOL. And by studying it you get this, I suppose, deeper understanding of programming language evolution. There's things in the language around, you know, fundamental concepts which when you look at them you have that moment where it's like, you know, it's an old friend. So block structure, recursive functions, things like formal syntax definitions, if you're used to, you know, more formal system definitions in language, or it's something you've explored, that sort of thing. So looking back at the language, I think helps solidify those core principles. It's also a very well designed language, so the design philosophy was around, I believe, clarity and formalization. And that helps when, you know, if you're trying to develop, I think, a more critical eye about or concerning language design. There's the academic interest thing as well, because of the fact that, you know, if you're interested in the history of computer science, then ALGOL is going to come up as a potential and fascinating area of study. And alongside that, if like me, you're into comparative language study, then yeah, it's a real valuable point to explore from, position to explore from, and helps you highlight, you know, similarities and differences between different programming languages and their design. So yeah, so really those sort of 5 intersections, if you like historical significance, understanding fundamental concepts, appreciating language design, academic interest in comparative language study. That, you know, is where I'm positioned, I suppose. And I think maybe a lot of people, that might be, you know, those might be a set of reasons for checking out the language. I'll include links, as always, to all the sort of talking points as I go through and try and put pins in the map here. So we've got the usual Wikipedia article. And as I mentioned, you know, to me, the legacy of ALGOL is how much it inspired the languages that followed it. And it's interesting, this quote here, it says, "Here is a language so far ahead of its time that it was not only an improvement on its predecessors, but also on nearly all of its successors." And when you look at it, that first time you look at it, if you've never seen it before, it is like it's an old friend. You know, all these structures which we take for granted now are there. Now, admittedly, you know, there's been various iterations of it, and you may notice some of the earlier ones, we've got, you know, all these sort of all caps, but what I find is when I look at this representation of it, you know, I see, you know, echoes in so many other languages. You know, when I look at the function definitions, that sort of thing. Interesting how comments done in the language. How they do that. Also things like you have these begin and ends, and you can see how a lot of the blocks here are represented in the language, how that's done. And there's a good old hello world. And again, I think for me, I mean, probably the one when I was dabbling recently, and we'll come on to this, this is what I sort of based my code around, is ALGOL 68. If you sort of read about ALGOL 58, ALGOL 60, you'll see, where there are certain problems in trying to learn that particular variant of it. So I would definitely start here, ALGOL 68. That's my advice. But you can see we've got some interesting timeline here with special characters as well. You might come across some quite unusual characters, which I suppose if you've studied something like APL, isn't going to freak you out. But yeah, you've got to keep your eyes open, because sometimes you do assume that you might not be familiar with some special characters that do not come up in modern programming languages. There's an interesting list of ALGOL implementations here. I had come across Jovial before, actually, as in name, not to explore. I was looking down the list here and just seeing, and I was trying to remember if I ever had a version of this kicking around somewhere. We've also got similar 67 here, which is another language that I'm covering in the Reasons and Resources series. And the other thing I will mention, this book has an interesting section in it on ALGOL-like programming languages. And this I haven't got it yet. This is on my sort of to buy list for additions to my comparative language study library. So I have a few books on comparative language study. I probably have more books on specific languages, but I have a few books now on comparative language studies, and this definitely is going to be an addition at some point. I really like the cover to this, actually. Now, in terms of looking at where ALGOL figures in, our usual look at the Stack Overflow survey, so we're still looking at 2024. This video has been recorded in, March of 2025. So, yeah, 2025's one isn't out yet. It normally comes out around about June time. But for consistency of the series, I've probably always got a reference back to this one, even after 2025 comes out. I'll probably have to look at both in later episodes in this series. So we go down the list. I'm having trouble actually seeing ALGOL anywhere on the list, which doesn't surprise me. And it's always surprised me that as a language, it was never more popular than it was. I know that there's a reference somewhere in here. If you read through the article, they talk about how it was used as a, what was it? Where did it say here? I'm just trying to find where I spotted that. It doesn't matter too much, I'm sure. Yeah, so my understanding is that it was used as a way of stating certain formal language definitions over quite a long period of time. And I can't remember where that was in the article, but I'm sure if you read through these you'll be able to find it. I just noticed it in passing when I was looking at this, because this is the bit, you know, if you sort of asking me, you know, in terms of what really intrigues me and what is this diagram. So you can see here, I mean, this only goes up to the, you know, the main, so ALGOL, Fortran, COBOL, but this sort of interesting interaction and these, you know, these evolutionary streams that sort of go off in various places. So, you know, you have Fortran here going off, you've got the Visual Basic part of the tree, you've got Fortran into ALGOL, into PL1 or PLI, I suppose that's PL1. And then COBOL off of here, which came out Flowmatic. And then we get to ALGOL, and you can see, you know, ALGOL into Ada, ALGOL into Pascal, into Delphi, Pascal into Modular, ALGOL similar Smalltalk, and then that Smalltalk itself influencing COBOL, and then this whole sort of C++ side shoot over here as well. So interesting to see that there. But, you know, going back to this, I've gone off a bit of a tangent there. I don't see it on the list here. Yeah. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but yeah, pretty sure it isn't there. Admired and Desired, pretty sure it's not on here either. And then top paying technologies, don't have it here. So yeah, so upshot of this is, it, to me, the main reason for learning it is of historical significance, and giving you leverage, I think, with other languages that have come out of it. If you're not already familiar with that, I think it's quite an interesting, you know, side quest again to do if you're interested in the history of programming languages and their development. Got some links down the bottom in the further reading here on the Wikipedia article to various resources. Now, if you want to actually roll your sleeves up, and I would thoroughly recommend it, I had great fun dabbling with ALGOL, is we use this, ALGOL 68 Genie. So, yeah, download that, get it up and running. And there's even a manual as well, a tutorial. But yeah, great way to dabble with ALGOL 68. However, you can dabble using something like JDoodle. It does have a online ALGOL 68 IDE that you can sort of fiddle around with. And when I initially, you know, before I downloaded this, I was using some ALGOL 68 online systems just to dabble around before I sort of took the plunge. I've got 3 interesting videos here. 2 of them I think from Computer File. So there's an interview here. Professor Brailsford talking about ALGOL 60 at 60, that was 4 years ago. And then also another one about ALGOL 68 instead of Pascal. Looks like it was done in the same filming session maybe. And this is pretty interesting. So these National Museum of Computing videos. They've got one on building the future with ALGOL 60. So that's quite a nice interesting historical video there. Unfortunately, you're not going to find it on Exorcism, so you won't be able to use Exorcism to check it out. But there is this interesting resource here, Exploring ALGOL 68 in the 21st Century. So you've got that there. Walks you through some interesting code, bit about anonymous procedures, that sort of thing. And then we've got the section on the Software Preservation Group website for the Computer History Museum. There's a whole load of ALGOL 68 articles here. So I did a search for ALGOL 68, 35, which you might find useful. Yeah, there's a lot of material around ALGOL 68 generally just floating around on the internet. It's not too hard to track down. And I actually have a page on the Programming Polyglot website. I had quite a good run on the older languages actually. Fortran, COBOL, Lisp, ALGOL. I found ALGOL responded surprisingly well in terms of, or LLMs responded surprisingly well in terms of helping me sort of generate idea and code ideas in them with not too much tweaking and tweezing. Sometimes the capitalization can get a little bit lumpy, as you can see here. And you may also find, like some of the other early languages, when you're doing print statements, things can sometimes look a little strange as well. I did a lot of this where I didn't sort of format things up. I need to clean that up. Yeah, I try and always put comments or printouts. If I've got expected output in my articles, I always try and put them in sort of grey on black as opposed to green on black, sort of green on black for code. So I need to take a look at that article at some point, fix that up a little bit. Yeah, so there we have it really. So hopefully some useful resources if you're interested in going down an ALGOL rabbit hole. And certainly, there's a whole load of really interesting routes that you can take through here. I mean, I suppose if looking up my route through programming languages, it was definitely this, and then sort of jumped over here and started to dabble with some C stuff, and then never really explored Pascal to that great an extent beyond what I've looked at for comparative programming reasons. Same with Fortran and COBOL, just for the purposes of exploring their structures for the Programming Polyglot project. And I'll talk about this in a later episode because I've got an episode coming up on Smalltalk. I did actually do a formal course, postgraduate course on Smalltalk programming. It's more specifically actually object-oriented development and design, in which we use Smalltalk as the programming language to do the coding. So there we have it. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.